Welcome back, everybody, for Module 5 today. Module 5 is around SharePoint Online, administering SharePoint Online. And I have with me Fulvio,
Hi,
who will lead you through the content. Now, SharePoint Online, how does that fit in? It's the second module on administering Exchange, SharePoint, and Lync Online. And to complete the whole SharePoint Online experience, understand SharePoint Online really completely, apart from administering it, you should look at day 3, the last 2 sessions, for planning and deploying it. So those 3 sessions as a combination are very good value for you to prepare for both of those exams. And with that, I'm looking at the agenda and hand it over to Fulvio.
thank you, Stefan. Okay, let's continue with the next module that is about SharePoint Online. We will understand why we need to propose SharePoint Online to our customer, what is included in SharePoint Online, so the features that are included in SharePoint Online, what is not included instead in SharePoint Online, so what is missing, comparing it to the on-premise version. This is really, really important. How we can customize or extend SharePoint Online. We will have also many information about the storage that is provided with SharePoint Online, and also an overview about the external sharing. We will see also external sharing in action on day 3 to better understand how it works and what we can do with external sharing. Then we will talk about subscription plans, so the differences between the key plan, e-plan, and the SharePoint Plan 1 and 2, and we will have in the end of this particular module some consideration about the deployment of SharePoint. So let's start with this module, speaking about why SharePoint Online. But I have a question maybe for Stefan. Stefan,
right.
Why? What is SharePoint?
What is SharePoint?
Yeah.
That is actually a very hard question to answer most of the time when you get it from customers. What is SharePoint? Because it's so many things. Right?
Fantastic.
SharePoint is a Swiss Army knife. It's a portal, it's a document management system, it's your search, enterprise search tool, it's your BI tool. It's
Fantastic.
the backbone of everything that we understand in terms of collaboration and run in Microsoft. So it's really a central piece of our technologies, bringing everything together. In a nutshell, that's how I would explain it.
It's fantastic. I need to take you with me the next time I deliver a demo to our partner customer.
All right.
It's a good synthetic overview of SharePoint.
Thank you.
Okay, let's understand why instead using SharePoint Online instead of the regular SharePoint that we all know. So SharePoint Online is, let's imagine it like a storage system for information that is accessible everywhere from users inside our company. So on SharePoint Online, for example, I can store my documents, I can store my data, my list, my databases in some way. I can provide the access to this information to my user whenever they are. So if they are at home, if they are in a remote office, if they are in another location, SharePoint Online is the right solution for this kind of users and activities. Then SharePoint Online is a good solution also for backup and antivirus, because SharePoint Online has really good RPO and RTO time related to how our data is maintained and backuped by Microsoft directly. What else? Every content that is uploaded to SharePoint Online is scanned by Forefront online protection for SharePoint. So if I upload or download a document from SharePoint, this document will be for sure without a virus or malware. This is really, really important, because this could save a lot of money and a lot of time to our customer in general. Let's continue with the presentation of SharePoint Online. SharePoint Online offers 4 major types of site to share documents, data, as we said, also information within and outside the organization. Within the organization to our colleagues, for example, and outside our organization, we are speaking about external sharing. We have, as we said, 4 major types of site. The first one is the team site. The second type is my site. The third is intranet site. And the fourth one is the public-facing website. This is a new a new kind of SharePoint site that we introduced with Office 365. It's a public and lightweight website that can be freely accessible from all the people all around the world without any kind of authentication. This is really important because many organizations or customers, especially small customers, can use the public-facing website for their activities, for example.
So it's basically like the mom-and-pop shop, flower shop.
It's perfect. If you are a lawyer, for example, if you have a restaurant, it's okay. If you have a flower shop, perfect.
Right, yep.
So a small site.
You don't need anything to set up. You just go online, sign up for SharePoint Online, and you have a public-facing website.
If you have SharePoint, you have also the public website. So it's perfect for your activity. You can save also money because you don't need to buy additional space, contact an hosting company, buy an additional maybe domain. It's all included. Okay, it's a value. Mm-hmm. Let's continue. So let's see all these 4 types of website and in detail. So let's start with the team sites, for example. Team site is a kind of let me say portal in SharePoint Online where we can store all the information that are related to my specific team. So if I work in an IT team, for example, so information technology team, and I need to store all the information related to driver, software, licenses, hardware configuration, topology, and so on, are just example, I can build with SharePoint Online in just a few seconds a team site to share all this kind of information inside my team, and if I want, only inside my team, because SharePoint offers also the ability to restrict the access to the information based on security group, as we said before, but only based on the username and the password. We will see on day 3 how it's possible to secure the access to a particular area of the site, a particular web part or site, based on the audience. So if you are Fulvio, you can access to the site. If you are Stefan, for example, you will be not even able to see that part of the site. So it's really interesting, also because it's all built inside SharePoint Online. We have here just a few ideas about the features that are provided by SharePoint, also in Team Site. So you can create one site, for example, and other sub-site. So you could have, for example, the main site for your IT team, information technology team is just an example, and other sub-site that are linked to the main site that contain, for example, information about a specific project, information about hardware, information about software, and so on. It's up to you how to organize the information inside SharePoint. And it's really important, also for the exam, to understand how to organize the information inside a SharePoint site. I will provide you in the last day a good guide about how to manage a site, website, site collection in the best way to fit customer needs. So create 1, 2, 3 different site collection based upon the request from the customer. This is really, really important. What else? If the number of the site collection may vary by subscription plan both. Yes, this is true. We will talk about that in one of the last slides provided during this module. Plan P, for example, will enable to have just one site collection. If you have, for example, instead SharePoint Online Plan 1, Plan 2, or A1, or the SharePoint that is included in A1 to A4, you will be able to create many different site collections with different rules and policies linked to them. What else? SharePoint Online offers also many different templates to manage your activities inside the team. So the team site, the blog, the wiki, the meeting workspace. It's also really easy to create a contact database with all the information about vendors, for example, external contacts, and so on. You can use SharePoint without any problem in that case.
So when you set up those team sites, you get a whole slew of templates that you can use that already pre-populate your your site, so you have already certain web parts included, or
but you can always change which kind of web part are included in a site. You have a specific layout for that particular theme site, but you can use the let me say the ribbon bar to modify on the fly the aesthetic of the site, for example, or also SharePoint Designer. You can use SharePoint Designer to transform your site based on your needing. Okay,
right.
Makes sense.
Great. Yeah.
And you can also, as you said, upload or apply a custom site template with SharePoint Designer. You can create a template and reuse this template on this SharePoint Online, but maybe also on other SharePoint Online. So for this company, but maybe for other companies. It's cool. It's also a business opportunity for our partners, because you can build different templates based on specific customer needs. So for pharmaceutical companies, for example, in Italy, it's quite common that partners create specific template or template for SharePoint and SharePoint Online to fit customer needs. It's really important. What else? SharePoint Online offers also the opportunity not only in team sites, but using every kind of SharePoint site to access to Office web application. So you have the opportunity to open a Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote file directly inside your browser, and based on your subscription, you can also eventually edit it on the fly. So Office web app, you can edit directly a Word document or an Excel document or a PowerPoint document directly on the browser without using the Office client installed on your machine. This is really cool. Also because if you need to perform a basic check on a document or just correct one word that has a typo, for example, you can do it directly online without using the real Word or the Office client application. It's nice.
Now, in order to do that, though, you have to have the right license, right?
You have to have, perfect.
From the E-plans, we know E2, 3, and 4, that's where it's included.
It's good.
But if you buy standalone, you can buy SharePoint Online standalone.
Yeah, sure.
There are different plans. Which plans do you have to have?
Plan 2 offers the full plethora of application, not only Office web application, but with Plan 2 we will have also, for example, Visio services. It's just an example. Excel services, something more that usually is included in the enterprise version of SharePoint on premises. So the full power of SharePoint.
So basically, SharePoint Plan 1 is the one that's included in E1 SKU as a suite, and SharePoint Plan 2 is what's included in E2, E3, and E4.
Correct.
Right. Good.
Let's go for that. Let's continue with My Site. My Site is another kind of SharePoint area where an employee of the company can build his own identity, let me call this site like that, inside the company and inside the SharePoint Online. So if I'm an employee of a particular company, I can access to the My Site and upload document, update my information, so I can, for example, add information about my hobbies, my past project, for example. So if someone else is searching for a person inside the company that maybe has experience about a specific technology, specific project, and so on, can just have a look can just perform a search in SharePoint Online and find also a person, not only a document, that has a specific, let me say, competencies about a technology, about a product, and so on. It's really, really important. And My Sites offer also 500 megabytes of space for personal document. So SharePoint offers 10 gigabytes of space plus 500 megabytes for user in general. Then plus each user will receive 500 megabytes for My Sites, for storing my personal documents. So it's just like a backup. I can, for example, upload on My Site my personal document and access to this document from my phone, Windows Phone, for example.
So those My Sites, are they by default created for each user that you have created?
Yeah.
Or do
you can eventually decide if a specific group of people will not have it. But usually, if you have an identity, or better, if you are a user that can access to SharePoint Online, you will have also the My Site.
Right. So every user can have one My Site.
Can have one My Site,
or no My Site if they are restricted.
Perfect. Because maybe your company doesn't want to provide My Site for security reason, for other reason, we don't know. Okay. This is just an example. Again, what I want to add to what we already said is that eventually it's possible with SharePoint Online, if we have already SharePoint on premises, for example, to configure SharePoint Online to have the My Site area not on the SharePoint Online but on the SharePoint on premises. So you can have an hybrid environment. We will talk about that more in day 3. But you can use, for example, SharePoint Online for sharing and to share information, but also to memorize documents, store documents. And for the My Site, you have already something inside your company, and you can continue to use what you have inside your company. You can also decide, for example, to use SharePoint Online for particular kind of documents. We will talk about that more later. And the local SharePoint for other kind of document. Just to make you an example, if you need to store big documents like a video, for example, the better solution could be to use the SharePoint on premises, because we will not have problem related to the size of the file. SharePoint Online will permit you to upload files that are not bigger than 250 megabytes. Just because if you will try, at least in Italy, to upload a file that is bigger than that size, would be difficult, and you can occur in timeout problem, because there is a problem uploading a so big file to the cloud. Okay.
Right. And just 2 ways of how you can actually share information or store information. We talked about the document library that your My Site can be. It's either your private document library, or you can expose it publicly.
Yeah.
You can control the permissions, who has access to that.
You can control everything you want inside SharePoint. You can decide that, for example, on My Site, in this case, your information are only for you, or your information will be shared with colleagues, for example. So I have 500 megabyte, and I share documents about my family. It's just an example, some picture, photo. It's my space.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're the admin of that site. You and the SharePoint overall global admin are the only 2 users who have full permissions to that.
You should be able to control what there is inside the My Site. The SharePoint administrator is up to you. Is something higher than you, for sure. Okay. Let's continue with the intranet site. Intranet site is something that we can define as a formal site inside your company. So if you work inside a company, maybe you have an intranet portal that is something more formal, more official, with verified information on it, maybe, and public information about the company, about HR, for example, about the IT support, and so on. So intranet sites usually are related to the whole company, or related to a specific area of the company. So maybe I can have an intranet site just related to the HR, for example. So it's up to you what to create, if an intranet site or a My Team site. Usually also My Team site are also used when a project is a temporary project. So you build a site, you work on the project, and then you destroy the team site because the team has been disbanded, for example. Okay. Internet site, you can work on internet site also using third-party tools, like as we said, SharePoint Designer. We can customize the master page, we can define logo, images, navigation, web part, and so on. Part of these modifications are available directly using the browser, and others are available using the SharePoint Designer. It's just an example. You can also eventually decide to publish business KPI inside the internet site. So all the company will know about specific metrics, will know about specific numbers that are company-wide, for example. And what else? You can also use, for example, InfoPath form services inside your internet site. But to use InfoPath form services, you will need
plan 3.
Great.
Right?
Plan 3 or 4, yeah, perfect. Because it's included in SharePoint Plan 2. Make sense?
Makes sense, yeah.
Okay.
And just a clarification, and it came also in through the QA channel.
Yep.
I misstated, I think, earlier when we talked about SharePoint Plan 1. That's E1 and E2.
Perfect.
And SharePoint Plan 2 is E3 and E4.
Sorry, I was thinking something else. It's correct. So SharePoint Online Plan 1 is in E1, E2, and the rest, SharePoint Plan 2 with InfoPath form services is in E3 and E4. Correct. Let's continue with the presentation. In this version of SharePoint Online, we have also a public-facing website. So we can create, for free, without any additional cost, a public website for the customer company. So imagine to have an address like contoso.com as domain, and you can also link that domain to this SharePoint public-facing website. What is good about the public-facing site in SharePoint Online is the customization option, because you can customize this website directly using the browser without using any additional tools. So you will not need either SharePoint Designer. You can't use SharePoint Designer to customize or modify the public-facing site. What else? You can have only one public-facing website per subscription, per customer, and per. So take care about what you do with your public-facing site. So you can have only one public-facing site. Double check about that. Another important information about the public-facing site is that you can customize the domain linked to the site. So you can decide the URL that will be linked to your site, and it is HTTP based. There will be no authentication to access to this site. As we said before, this could be used without any problem for a regular shop. So a small shop that that will sell toys, for example, or other things, can have this public-facing website and customize it in a few minutes. We will see that in the demo just now. So let's move to the demo. Okay, we have here the SharePoint public-facing website. As you can see, we have a custom URL here. Eventually, I can change this URL, as I said, with a custom domain that I want. And as I said before, here we don't have any kind of encryption. It's a public site, no authentication here. I can move through the site using the tab here, as you can see. But what if I want to change the look and the aesthetic of the site? This is really, really easy. What I need to do is just to perform a logon here. I've been already recognized as Fulvio Salanitro and as an administrator, so I can perform operation inside the public website in this case. So just to show you something, I can, for example, edit the main page of the site, the home page, in a few seconds. Okay. As you can see, the graphic of the site here is quite different. I have a sort of ribbon bar here on the top of the page, and I can customize the layout and the, let me say, the looking of the site in a really easy way. So, for example, I can change the size of a particular area without any problem. I can just type the text that I want in a particular area. I can change also without any problem the character, the type of the character. I can underline this word, for example, or can also change the color. Are just example about how it's easy to let me say customize or update the content of this website. I can also, for example, change the aesthetic of the site. So the color, for example. Actually, I'm using this particular template for color, but I can change it to this one, for example, blue one. So in a few seconds, the color of my website will be based on the blue. It's just an example. I can change, for example, again the theme of the site. So if I have, for example, an education company, I can insert a different image here on the left top in a few seconds. Voila. I can just select an area of the site and customize the text. So the title here will be Office 365 Jumpstart, and the subtitle will be, tell me one word.
Just one word?
Yeah.
Office 365 Jumpstart.
One
Let's
word
change it to Office 365 Acceleration.
Office is
Accelerate.
Okay. Okay, just done. Few seconds will be already part of the main theme and layout of the website. I can also change the menu location. So if I want to have the menu on the top, on the left, like in this case, or on the left and on the top. In this case, I will move the menu on the top of the site. Really easy, really fast. Right. Okay. What is really nice about the public website is that I can add many components without to know anything about web programming, for example. So I'm still on the main page, but on this main page I want to add, for example, an hyperlink. So we spoke before about service description. I can just select one portion of the text, and then add to that portion a link to another site without using a third-party program. Or else I can add, for example, a video that is stored, for example, on YouTube. So maybe the presentation of my company is a video that is already present and available on YouTube. I can link that video to my public site. So I can use the power of YouTube inside my custom site.
So you're embedding that YouTube video in there? Yeah,
embedding directly the video here.
It's very powerful, and I see. So you have those web parts here that you can very easily manipulate. Can you edit? Do you have rich web part editing functionality like you have it in regular SharePoint for your public website?
This is a fantastic question. The public website is based on SharePoint, but is not a true SharePoint. So the interface is similar. You can see that there is, for example, the ribbon bar on the top of the screen. Whereas you see that when we decided to perform a member logon, like in this case, the interface is quite similar to SharePoint, but you don't have all the web parts that are included, for example, in a regular SharePoint environment. You have just a few web parts that are tailored for a public website. So, for example, two that are really nice, in my opinion, are maps and direction. So how to reach me. If you can choose your region, for example, just enter here the address, display option, and the widget, the gadget, will create a map just for you with all the information to reach your store. This is really easy.
So what you get is a subset of web parts, basically, you get to select from.
Yeah. Yeah.
And follow-up question on that is, what about SharePoint Designer we talked about? Can you manipulate the...
No, you can use SharePoint Designer with SharePoint Online, but not
with a public-facing website.
The only interface that you can use to customize your site is the web one.
Just this little one.
So, as we said, one gadget, the interesting gadget is the map and direction, and the second one that is really useful, in my opinion, is the Contact Us. Because without knowing anything about web programming, you can create a form, for example, just typing an email address here. Few seconds. .com. I can have inside my page a form that will send me an email with all the information I will require without revealing my real email address. So I don't risk to expose my email address to spam, for example, because it's hidden behind the form. It's really nice for a small company, in my opinion. And you can build all these, we can build a website in just a few minutes if we want. We just need to get used to the tool, to the interface, and in a few minutes we can create a really nice website.
Very simple and very easy. And that puts in perspective when we were saying it's great for quick and cheap for small companies, right?
Yeah.
Because it's limited in scope of what you can do. If you need a more sophisticated website for a larger company or a web presence, then you would want to have...
Let's say that you can't use this one for an e-commerce site, for example.
Right.
But for a present website, it's perfect.
Yep.
Okay. Let's continue with our presentation to see the differences between the SharePoint service plan, as we said. So, if we are talking about Office 365 Plan P, so for professional and small business, SharePoint is included, but in SharePoint for small business, you can have only one team site collection, for example, and just one public-facing site. Instead, if you are using the Office 365 for enterprises, you can have up to 300 team site collection. You will have the My Site, as we said before. You will have one, again here, public-facing site, and you have also the admin console to manage SharePoint Online. We will talk about it later when we see another demo about the admin console of SharePoint Online. Let's continue. SharePoint Online can be purchased on a standalone basis or part of an Office 365 suite. This means that I can buy only SharePoint if I want, or I can buy SharePoint inside a plan like small business, enterprise, as we said before, A1, A2, A3, A4, or SharePoint can be part of a kiosk subscription in K1 and also in K2. SharePoint is not available as a standalone product in a K1 offering. Exchange, yes. So this is really important because in BPOS, in the previous version, you could have SharePoint Online K1, just that. It's not available as a standalone product here in the key plan. What else? Let's continue. We will start here with a really interesting comparison between SharePoint Online and SharePoint On-Premises. This is really important because customer, partners, and IT professionals should be able to understand when to choose SharePoint Online or SharePoint On-Premises based on specific requests or company needs, for example. So, SharePoint On-Premises will offer all the features that are usually provided by SharePoint. So we speak about My Sites, Team Sites, Internet Site, collaboration in general. SharePoint On-Premise offer also many possibilities related to customization. So you can work with SharePoint Designer. You can work with online tools like the ribbon bar we used before. Or also you can use also Visual Basic to create custom solution and feature for SharePoint On-Premises. So extend the capabilities of SharePoint On-Premises based on your needs. You will have also Business Intelligence, Fast Search, and Internet Site. Business Intelligence, Fast and Internet Site are actually not part of the SharePoint Online offering. So if you need to work, for example, with Performance Point, you need something more in your search, in searching inside your SharePoint sites and so on, Fast Search and Performance Point, for example, are not included inside the SharePoint Online. Let's continue with what is included instead in SharePoint Online. SharePoint Online that is included in Office 365 has been expanded a lot compared to the previous version that was part of the BPOS offering. So this time, for example, we have a great Office integration. We have the external sharing that is really important. We just had the demo about the public-facing website. It's just an example. We have the Office web app that will enable user to work without using a client installed inside my desktop, inside my machine. We have also Excel services, Access services, Visio services. These are all included in Plan A3, A4 and SharePoint Plan B. We have also business connectivity services that will enable to connect to external data sources, like for example Azure, like for example SQL, and have this data pushed directly to SharePoint for visualization. Is just an example. Then we have the SharePoint Web Services here, so you can create and build your own application that will talk with SharePoint Online to store data, for example, to access to data, are just example. We have form services in SharePoint Online that are really important to build a custom form, for example, using InfoPath. What else? You can also use and build Silverlight control with SharePoint Online. So we have many features that are included actually in SharePoint Online. We will include other in the next major release of SharePoint Online next.
Actually, there's one thing to add, which I think is really interesting. When we talk about form services, InfoPath, it's actually included in K2, right? You have access to InfoPath.
Yeah, it's included in K2, and it's really interesting because if you are a K2 user, you can fill forms without to be a real SharePoint user.
Yeah.
It's
so
really
you cannot create those InfoPath forms, but you can be part of a workflow.
Yeah. In general, if you are a K1 or K2 user, you can contribute inside the SharePoint environment, but you can't, in general, perform EV operation like create, modify. Just use it. Okay.
Yep. So maybe we take a quick breather and point the attention to the poll. We want to know what kind of organization you are associated with, and let's continue after you had a chance. We pointed to that.
Thank you, Stefan. Okay, let's continue with our overview of SharePoint features that are provided by SharePoint Online. SharePoint Online does not provide some feature, like, for example, what is really important is information right management. So, as we said before, Exchange Online will offer integration with information right management, but not SharePoint Online, just for example. SharePoint for Internet Site, that is the SharePoint version for Internet Site of the on-premise version, is not available actually with SharePoint Online. So the only Internet version of a SharePoint site is the public-facing web site. This is really important. We don't have then Power Pivot, Full Trust Code Solution, Fast Search, and Performance Point services. So what all the components that are used usually for business intelligence and advanced site customization and development. We speak about development when we speak about full trust code solution in SharePoint, for example. Let's continue. On this table, we have a really important comparison between what I can use to customize SharePoint on-premises and SharePoint Online. As you can see, most of the features are present in and available on SharePoint Online. But you can, for example, have a full trust code solution in SharePoint Online. You can't have full trust code solution created with Visual Studio 2010, for example, or InfoPath form. You can develop some solutions, some web part, and so on, but they will run in a sandbox environment to add additional security to our and your SharePoint environment. You can also build a workflow using SharePoint Designer, for example, but also Visual Studio 2010. You can build a really powerful workflow using SharePoint 2010 on-premises. You can also build a workflow for SharePoint Online, but with the limitation related to the sandbox, so no full trust code again here. Let's continue. About the information related to the storage this time. the storage that is provided with SharePoint Online. This is really important again. So with every subscription of SharePoint Online, you will receive 10 GB per subscription. This is the basis, plus 500 MB per user. So you will have, for example, a company with a SharePoint subscription and 4 users. You will have a total of 12 GB of space that you can manage and allocate to one or more site collection or website. So you will have an amount of space that you can divide between SharePoint sites. It's up to you. You can also change in a second moment the amount of space that you allocated to a specific site collection or site inside a SharePoint subscription. If you are a kiosk worker, you will add no space to an existing SharePoint Online subscription. Also, if you are an external user, because if I share my SharePoint website with external users, these external users will have the opportunity, they can collaborate on my SharePoint website, they can edit documents, they can modify documents and so on, but they will not add additional storage space to my SharePoint Online subscription. That's because SharePoint Online external users are free. We don't have to pay to have an external user. So external user can just access, if I want, and collaborate with me. Users and customers can eventually evaluate to buy additional space for SharePoint Online. You can buy 1 or more gigabyte based on your needs, without no minimum space to be purchased for SharePoint Online. You can buy 1 or 10 gigabyte, and this will not be a problem. You can have up to 100 gigabyte per site collection, so there is a lot of space available for your SharePoint Online subscription and to store your document and information. As we said before, the My Site storage allocation that does not count against the overall storage pool is 500 megabyte per user. So you can store there your personal information and your personal document. You can create up to 10,000 site collection per subscription or tenant. It's a lot, and you can at the moment store up to 5 terabyte of data inside a subscription or tenant. So it's a lot of space for storing your information inside an online service. What else is really important also to know that you can upload file on SharePoint, but the maximum size for each file should be less than 250 megabyte per file. This is really important. Okay, as we said before, SharePoint Online provides the feature to share part of the content or a website with external user. To be an external user, you need to have a live account. So I can share, for example, with my wife, with my sister, some data that is stored inside a SharePoint Online website, but my wife, my sister, my vendor, for example, or other people that are outside the company need to have a live ID. This is really, really important, because when I create the invitation to access to my website, they will need to have a live ID. So hotmail.com, live.com, msn.com, and other variation of the live ID.
So an example of a real life example that I experienced was working with how to apply this is, for instance, as a car manufacturer, for instance, having dealerships being able to log in and accessing the specifications for these car models without having to supply those external dealerships with client licenses. Right?
Correct.
So this is one of the scenarios where we could use this.
Yep.
So you expose data, you control this data, and you don't have to add them to your Active Directory.
Perfect.
All they need is live IDs.
Perfect. It's completely exact, and it's free, and this is really important. And it's really important also because you can extend the capability of your SharePoint Online with external people without paying. So I can share data with you forever or just for a moment, and collaborate with you for the time I need. I can also remove in every moment one Live ID user from my SharePoint subscription I can remove it from my website, no subscription, because external access will be based on the website and not on the whole subscription.
And I think to point out, one of the recent additions is the first way of supported email addresses is business email addresses associated with Live IDs.
Yep,
we just added this about, I think, half a year ago to the service, because there was a big demand on that end.
Yeah. Because generally when you have a live account, is something like your name, your nickname at Live ID. Now you can use your name at your custom domain without any problem if it is associated to a Live ID without any problem. Fantastic, in my opinion. Let's continue with, at the moment, SharePoint Online offer 50 Pulse partner access license for external sharing included inside your subscription without any problem. In the future, this number will grow. So at the moment, it's really important to remember 50. Something we will change really soon. Okay, search overview. SharePoint Online offers, like the on-premise version, the feature to search inside all the sites inside the site collection. So you can search for a person, you can search for a document, for a specific word or information inside all the site collection. This is really important, and the results that are presented to the end user or the person who is performing the search are security trimmed. So for example, if I'm Fulvio and I'm searching for a specific word inside my SharePoint Online website, but as Fulvio I can't access to specific documents, I will have in front of me just results to which I can access. This is really important. So there is a security trimming between SharePoint, search and me. Is really important also, this one. What is different from the on-premise version here is that SharePoint Online doesn't provide the ability to change the crawl frequency for new data. So if you upload a new document inside your SharePoint Online website, you will need to wait a while to have this document indexed by the system. Could take a few minutes for that. This is one big difference from the on-premise version. This could be a problem, but the good thing is that you don't need to administer the search inside SharePoint Online, because it's something that is managed directly by Microsoft. This is good instead, because you don't need to worry about that. For business intelligence, we say that SharePoint Online is a bit limited here, but we have access services to work with the Microsoft Access databases, for example. We have business connectivity services to access to external content sources like SQL Azure, for example, or other database sources like SQL, for example. We have Microsoft Excel 2010 with Excel services, for example, so we can work with Office Web Application and have Excel 2010, and also have Excel services to provide a higher level of interaction with our Excel file and documents. We have also Visio services that can help us to have a visual representation of many business structures that are connected to data, for example. So I have a diagram in front of me built in Visio, and this diagram is updated directly from other sources. It's really nice and interesting. What we don't have again inside SharePoint Online, The first bullet is really important because at the moment SharePoint Online does not support mail-enabled list or library. So I can't, for example, send an email directly to SharePoint Online and save the content of that mail directly inside the document library or a SharePoint list. I can't at the moment. Then I can't also install additional iFilter to index in SharePoint Online documents that are different from Office, PDF and zip file. So the search inside this kind of document will be performed only on this on this type of file, not the other. I suggest you also to have a look really often to the service description of SharePoint Online, because we updated that the features that are included in SharePoint Online and we document these changes on the service description that is updated at least once per month. So check it. The difference in managing SharePoint Online compared to a regular SharePoint. As you can see, we have different boxes here. Boxes in green are usually related to SharePoint on-premises. So as an administrator, if you are managing an on-premise SharePoint infrastructure, you will need to be the farm administrator to manage all the services, all the server inside a SharePoint farm and so on. So hardware, software, high availability, services and so on. You need to manage the central administration, so to control and configure all the services let me say services, feature, functionalities that are included inside a general SharePoint 2010. But instead, if you are using SharePoint Online, you just need to take care of the tenant administration, because you just need to create a site collection, for example, manage metadata, manage InfoPath form services, or also manage profile services, nothing else, because the part related to the further administration and central administration is managed directly by Microsoft. This is one of the advantages provided by cloud services, because you don't need to worry about high availability, databases, services, crashes, update, service pack, and so on. This is fantastic for customer and partner, because they can save a lot of time and avoid many issues related to the infrastructure. As you can see, the administration page that is available with SharePoint Online is completely different from the one that is included in SharePoint on-premises. As you can see, we have just a few tabs to manage site collection, InfoPath form services, user profile, business data connectivity, term store, and secure store service. What else? As you can see here, we don't have any option to manage database, to manage log, to manage security, to manage services, and so on. You don't need to do that in SharePoint Online. What else? I just want to provide you additional information about SharePoint Online for enterprises. Have a look to the service description, because, as I said, it's really important to understand the differences in detail between the online version and the on-premise version. This is really important, and update it really often. And then to have a look to the community site of Office 365 to be notified and updated about service updates. So what will come really soon, what will happen really soon about SharePoint, but also other services that are included in SharePoint Online. I believe that's all.
Thank you, Silvio, for all of you. Sorry for putting your name right there at the end. For the overview on administering SharePoint Online. Again, remember, this session will be rounded out on day 3 with planning and deploying SharePoint, so look for those sessions on day 3. We will take a 10-minute break and come back with our next module, the last one for day 1, which will be administering Lync Online. Thank you, all of you.